Good morning, fam, and happy Monday. Our latest is that MK held rallies across the country yesterday in preparation for the local government elections. They have been making good headlines lately, and they even won some awards in the past weeks. Their SG Floyd Shivambu also addressed Trump's recent actions, stating that people should not be concerned as Trump will eventually harm US economy. Trump has been sanctioning countries and imposing some high tariffs on other countries, including South Africa, and Floyd Shivambu addressed that. Listen to what he said in the next slide. Also check all these MK events. Please remember to also leave your comments down below to let us know of your take regarding this. And that's all we have for now. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you again next time. Bye.
Ikhona amaqabane la i-181 program iyaqhubeka komkhonto wesizwe sambele odokotela sambele onesi bazosisiza la bazolekelela umkhonto wesizwe yasebenza usebenzela abantu bafikela ey'ndaweni zabo. Kubandazi morning asibonge kumkhonto wesizwe ngendlela osiza ngayo emphakathini. Kubandazi morning.
Now, the United States of America has increased tariffs not only for South Africa but for almost all countries in the world. And what Mr. Trump is doing is saying he calls those reciprocal tariffs. That is retaliatory tariffs, like he's doing those tariffs in retaliation. That if you have been charging the American economy certain tariffs to gain access to your market, you are going to be charged for you to gain access to the American market. So South Africa is particularly affected because from the year 2000, South Africa was beneficiary of the African Growth and Opportunities Act, which was the legislation in the American Congress or Parliament to allow countries in sub-Saharan Africa to take goods and products into the American market without paying any tariffs, without paying any taxes as on when those goods enter the American market. So for a very long time, there's been some relationship with South Africa got to benefit from through AGOA, which now is coming to an end because there's a 30% taxes that are being imposed on South African goods and products. But we need to also, as a political movement, examine just who had been the beneficiaries of the AGOA process since enactment in 2000. Largely, it has been the automobile industry, Comrade Chairperson. So you will find these European companies like VW, and then the Japanese with Toyota, and then the Americans with Ford will come and assemble cars here in South Africa so that they can get duty-free access to the American market. That is what, so 30% of the AGOA benefits has been accruing to the over-subsidized automobile industry in South Africa. And where they will just come and assemble cars so that they can gain free access to the American market. And then the second category of that was something called ferroalloys, and then agricultural products, citrus, and all of those things. So we said it before that in the process of hyper-nationalism and trying to appear relevant, Elon Musk is going to affect his people, because the people who are benefiting from access to the American market is in the commercial agriculture, and the commercial agriculture in South Africa is 99% white and mostly Afrikaners. They are the first victims. We can't say no. What about workers? Farm workers are treated like slaves. They're not benefiting anything. There's no farm worker who is benefiting anything from the farms that they're working in. They're treated like slaves. So the biggest victim of the hyper-nationalism and racism of Elon Musk and his friend Donald Trump will be the Afrikaner people whom he says are under siege. Now they're going to be in bigger trouble with this increase of the tariffs that is imposed on South Africa. But I think the most important observation that we have to make is that for a very long time now, America, through what is called the Washington Consensus, has been the number one preacher, archbishop of neoliberalism, which says that please don't put tariffs on goods and products that must come into your countries. Now, because there's a shift in the global balance of power, with China rising with proper manufacturing capacity and producing meaningful goods and products, the Americans are the ones who are turning around to opt for what they call protectionism, of protecting their market against imports from other parts of the world. So it means the Washington Consensus is coming to an end, or is collapsing. American imperialism and neoliberalism is beginning to come to an end. There is, however, foolishness in the manner in which it's being handled, because it's just blanket increase of tariffs even on things which America cannot domestically produce. I mean, how do you increase tariffs on fruits and nuts which you cannot grow in your own country? What that will have is just inflationary consequences on the American population, where those will just become more expensive and you cannot alternatively produce them. But as an instrument of industrialization, that is what it's trying to do, with the hope that Americans are going to domestically produce their own goods and services. And by the way, in the last issue to then reflect on this, is that part of the things that America is importing from China, Vietnam, and all these other countries are done by American companies in those countries. Apple, for instance, manufactures these laptops of Apple and cell phones in China. They say it's made, even at the back of the iPhone, it's written made in California but produced in China, manufactured in China. So he must go and fight with those people of Apple. He must fight with his friend Elon Musk, because even Tesla cars, the batteries are made in China. These electric vehicles, batteries are made in China. So there is some levels of folly and foolishness in terms of how the tariffs are imposed in what happens. But what we should, all of us as the progressive global left and global south, appreciate is that the forced neoliberal agenda and forced trade liberalization, which was imposed on behalf of America by the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, is going to come to an end. Countries are going to be able to develop their own industrial policies and set their own tariffs without being bullied by an American unipolar hegemony which existed for a long time. But in history, America has always tried to use tariffs for its own subjective purposes. But now we're in a different environment. There won't be any wisdom in trying to isolate South Africa from international trade. The call and the demand of Umkhonto we Sizwe is that let's intensify our relations with the BRICS countries. If anything, the relations with the West must not mean anything, because they've got neo-colonial and imperialist aspirations which we must not be beholden to as a people. Our friends have got proper and large markets. The countries in the BRICS plus bloc have got larger economy, larger population than the G7, than the rest of the world. In terms of the strength that we have, if you have got 1.4 billion people in India, 1.5 in China, South Africa should never waver in its own foreign policy positions and posture of anti-imperialism, of resisting the aggressive character of Israel in Palestine, all of those, of its historical, meaningful association with the Russian Federation, with all the progressive countries, the People's Republic of China. There can't be any threat. We are not too dependent on the United States of America. If we were to do an intrinsic study of just what constitutes our trade relations with America, we'll realize that it's actually the American companies and European countries that are benefiting out of that relationship. And the second category is the Afrikaner who are invited by Mr. Trump to go to America, and they can go. There's no problem with that. If they want to go, they can go. If they want to stay, they can stay, in terms of what happens. Comrades, I thought before I step down, must introduce our Treasurer General. His name is Hamilton Mpiake Limba. He's here, he has joined us, the TG of Umkhonto we Sizwe. Welcome, TG. If they ask questions about resources and salaries, we are going to respond on our behalf. Thank you very much.
Healthcare professionals, both employed and unemployed, are gathering here today for a transformative event that aims to bring critical healthcare solutions to communities in need. This launch marks an important step in the MK Party's commitment to strengthening the healthcare system through a dedicated network of medical professionals. We spoke with Commander Sbu Donda to understand the objective behind launching this initiative.
The best way of looking at it is to look at our constitution as the founding document of this country, the South African Constitution. If you look at section 27, subsection 1, it guarantees access to healthcare services. Now, if you look at the performance of the health sector, especially the public health sector in South Africa, they are performing under par. It's poor performance. So the MK cannot sit, fold our hands when our people are feeling the pinch. Okay, so we have decided that we will have to partner with the medical practitioners that share the same vision with the MK Party, that of full social, economic and political emancipation of our people.
There are many reasons why MKP Medics has been established, but at its core, this initiative is about improving healthcare access and ensuring that communities benefit from sustainable health programs. By spearheading this effort outside of government structures, the MK Party demonstrates a proactive approach to addressing healthcare challenges in South Africa.
We've been told over the past 20 to 30 years that healthcare is free, healthcare is accessible, but the lived realities on the ground are way different from what people are told. So part of the main things was to address exactly that, primary healthcare, but over and above that, to be able to then shape the policy position of Umkhonto weSizwe Party where health is concerned, and ultimately shape the policy position of the country when we take over government. So it was imperative for us to start to demonstrate what the MK Party will do when it eventually takes over government. So we didn't want to just wait by the sidelines up until we take over. There is this hope. People must see what the MK Party will then do when it takes over government. So it was imperative that we come with programs that will address the challenges, particularly of black people in the main.
It will also help the healthcare in the sense that the health pathing is, if you don't pick up disease early, the more the disease progresses, the more complicated it becomes to treat. But if I find you when you feel you are not sick, and I do my screening, I find out that you have high glucose, and I start treatment early, so the end organ damage is minimized because you started treatment early. So the fact that I came to you and I was able to pick up that you have an underlying condition, even though you are not aware of it, it will help you and also help the government or the general population, because then the health burden of treating you will be lessened.
One of the key highlights of today's events is a presentation of the program framework. Commander Dr. Chauke took to the stage to outline the structure and implementation strategy of the MKP Medics program.
But now we're going to divide the work into 3 different phases. The phase 1 part of it will basically be the mass-based community screening. So this is where inside KZN we identify malls, we identify shopping centers that we then go, we put up a gazebo of Umkhonto weSizwe, we put healthcare workers there and they screen our people. Exactly like what Dr. Biela was saying. You will be so shocked to find out how many people are walking around with ridiculous blood pressures. You'll be so shocked to find out. We are no longer shocked because this is the lived reality that we have then experienced, and we then applied our minds and thought, if this thing is done countrywide, you'll find that at some point we may have a level of increase in terms of life expectancy, because these things are manageable. It's just that no one knows that they are walking around with them. So phase 1 of the work, it covers public screening, mass-based, inside malls, inside shopping centers, inside an area where there's a lot of people. That is phase 1 of it, and it's going to run between, it started in January already within the Gauteng, the Northwest area. So between January and December, we'll just be doing that. We'll also, after this, try to also get the buy-in of other provinces so that at the very least, this thing is being done the entire country. So that is basically phase one. We'll pitch up inside taxi ranks, we'll pitch up inside shopping centers, and. Phase two of it, we will then be targeting specific population groups. There's no community that does not have the elderly. You then identify that as a specific population group. A team of MKP medics would then identify, say maybe old people inside that community. You gather them together. You give them education about the management of chronic illnesses. You give them education about how to live their lives even in the presence of chronic diseases. After that, when you are done with the old people in the same community, you go for the young people, the youth. You go and educate them about the risks of substance abuse, for example. Go educate them about mental health, for example. You go educate them about sexually transmitted diseases, and. When you are done with them, you then go to the young mothers. You'll be so shocked to find out. How many kids show up in public facilities, Dr. Mtet. Show up in public facilities, infants dead because the mother did not know how to care for the baby. It's very, very common. Most of the experiences we have of what we refer to as death on arrival is usually